Woo!
Okay, we're back. We had a little bit of interruption there, but we're carrying on.
My fault. Sorry.
It's all good. So, yeah, so we were just talking about how your book is doing really well. Congratulations. So where were we? We were talking about enlightenment and what it means and how the point of the sex magic that you teach in this latest book is to sort of get you closer to that more than, although there are some practical techniques.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the book is filled with practical techniques because spirituality should be something you do, you know?
Right, I agree 100%.
But the idea here is that Buddhahood or your own divine nature or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it is not that far away.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than taking the tactic that, you know, we have to focus on routing out bad qualities and bolstering positive qualities and this kind of thing that would be typical of, say, Sutric Buddhism, my book takes the tantric perspective, which is that all of this is just one primordial experience away. That you can rather than cultivating and slowly getting there, you can just break on through to the other side with a very powerful, earth-shattering experience. And of course, the best one for this is the orgasm, because it you know, if you're doing it right, it should be a primordial experience. It is this moment, you know, le petit mort, that, as it gets called in French, the little death. The ego falls away, and just you're left with this blistering clarity. And of course, there are ways then to sort of get in there and open that up. And this is what the book is about. So the book gives inner heat practices, which are sort of the missing component for most of the Western sex magic, and uses that to generate bliss in the moment of orgasm, and then sort of blow the doors off the whole thing and circulate the energy and flow into your partner and all that kind of stuff. And then there's, you know, the directing that energy towards practical ends, if that's your game, or creating the elixir of life, or anointing oils, and you know, even creation of artificial spirits and stuff like that. All that's in the book too, but primarily it's about, you know, it's about the initiatic journey. It's about blowing the doors off.
Okay, so once you've got the doors blown off, and you're going back to your how did you put it? It's not that far away. It's not that far of a step down the way. How does your life really change once you've gone through all these metamorphoses and you've started to apply these techniques on a regular basis? And I mean, what does it look like in your life to be a fully aware person? You know, what are you? What's the difference between Jason today and Jason? All right, maybe you don't consider yourself fully aware, but you know, you've been through some processes that make you more aware than a lot of people, and you know, Jason today versus Jason 20 years ago. You know, how does that? What's the difference in how that actually manifests?
Well, the difference is that I have seen past the ordinary mind in glimpses. You know, people talk about the non-dual state, and where you're beyond this cause and effect and beyond karma and all that, or in Western terms we might call it the abyss. And they talk about it in terms of, like, you know, crossing the abyss, then you're there. Then you are this kind of Magister Temple, or this great adept. But that's not really it. That's the beginning of the journey. That's like getting your black belt in karate. It's like, okay, you know, congratulations, you've proven your basic training is done. It's about making that state that you reach temporarily into a stage that you're at. And that's really the work of a lifetime, if not more lifetimes. And I certainly don't live in that state. I get pissed off at traffic. I get, angry at my kids when I have to tell them something 96 times.
It's the 93rd time is the worst.
Right, but the difference is that when I remember, and this is that sort of Gurdjieffian focus on remembrance as being key to the spiritual path. When I remember, I can shift there. I can shift into that state. And then all of a sudden, those things that have their claws in you let go. The best way to describe it is in Dzogchen terms. And I always tell people, I said, it's like your mind is a mirror. When most of us pass a mirror, the mirror is reflecting something, and we look in the mirror, and we just see what is being reflected. So if the mirror is reflecting flowers, we take a look and say, oh, wonderful, beautiful image of flowers. My heart is soaring. I am happy. Life is, is wonderful. But if the mirror is reflecting a steaming pile of dog dookie, then we go, disgusting, that's horrible, just get that off. But the important thing to remember is that the image of flowers does not change the surface of the mirror. The image of dog dookie does not fundamentally change the nature of the mirror. All the things that happen to us do not really change our underlying nature, which is clarity, reflectiveness, spaciousness, and awareness. And if we can realize that, if we can get past this dualistic grasping, I know thinking in terms of transcendence is getting increasingly out of vogue lately. But if we can transcend that and rest in this nature of mind, then we really have something. So in terms of sexual alchemy, it's about sublimation, it's about heat, it's about becoming more subtle. And this affects not only the body but the mind. So you might achieve this state while meditating, you might achieve it during orgasm. The trick is, how do you make it real? Well, you make it real by each time you're experiencing it, letting it affect you in a deeper and deeper way, and sort of building it into, building it into your body, into your energy body, into your mind,
into your choices.
In your choices in life, and it reflects all these things, and then you become what you're aiming at.
Right. Okay. So, all right. So, going back to your successes for the last year and a half, how much of your, you've gone from you've turned your life around 180 degrees, in terms of the polarity of your major primary income source, and in terms of your general practical Maslow's pyramid. You went from having a hobby that was a great side income and a decent core job to having a really great hobby that really blew the doors off of off of what you were doing in your core job, right? So I mean, how much of the practice that you've done do you credit with your ability to go from the relative safety of what the whole day job thing, and into something that might be a little bit more risky, but that you actually know from your experiences something you can influence a lot more than like a personal career. You know what I mean?
It helped. I would love to sit here and tell the story about how I bravely took the reins of my life and said, I am going to be the self-made man, and just cast care to the wind, and knew with certainty that my path would lead me to success. And, but that would all be a lie.
It would also be really stupid, right? I mean, frankly.
Essentially what happened is that, when I turned 30, and I'm 42 now, but around the time that I turned 30, I started to realize that, I spend a lot of my time on magic, and a lot of people are asking me to write and teach and do magic for them, and that in general I already knew that people paid a lot more attention and valued something more when they are paying for it.
Right.
I learned that lesson a long time ago. So even then I was already giving like odd classes at occult shops for money and things like that. And then New Page contacted me about writing a book for them. Based on an article I did for Witchvox. And so, it kind of then started to be this nice side income, essentially magic paying for itself, because you know that it can be a big money suck when you want to buy all these, books from England that are, there are only 9 copies bound in unicorn scrotum put out by Zoanon.
I'm enjoying Pyramidos quite a bit myself.
Yeah. So, it can be a money hole. So I started to make the hobby pay for itself. And then it started to get bigger and become part of the ordinary bills. But what also happened at this time is that I moved further away from the city and more into a more rural area. And so when the dot bomb happened, I no longer wanted to get a job in telecom or computers. I was working for an internet telephone company, and I didn't want to travel for hours and hours and hours a day. So I took a different kind of employment, which was still good, but it didn't have like a super future. And then my wife and I had children, and as you know, that's a big financial refocuser.
Oh yeah.
And so, in many ways, it's out of that a lot of that refocusing on finance and the importance of it that gave rise to my third book, Financial Sorcery.
Mm-hmm. That was brilliant, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit.
But, eventually it just came to be that I kept doing this because as the economy got worse and worse, this became a better and more stable source of income than day jobs.
Right.
But even then, it was like kicking and screaming. I am a very financially safety-oriented person. So the idea of having a side income where you can basically make as much as you can put effort into, yet still also having this day job where you get a regular paycheck whether you have a good week or a bad week.
Right.
That was very appealing to have both. But I was sort of killing myself, and the kids needed more of my time, and eventually I was making much more as a writer / sorcerer than I was at my day job, and I was cutting hours at the day job, and finally it was just like, who am I kidding?
Right.
This should just be good. So, it was sort of much like I forget his name, but the founder of FUBU, the clothing line. He was waiting tables at Red Lobster like a year into people showing up at Red Lobster wearing his clothes.
Right, yeah.
Because even though he was making like major bank, way more than I probably ever will, he was still like that idea of I got to have a job. Was still there.
This can't last. There's no way this can last.
And you know what? I mean, honestly, even today, I will sit down and people, I could have like the best week ever, say, at the beginning of a strategic sorcery course cycle when a lot of people join at the same time. It can be a wonderful week, and I'll do like major good work for people, and I could have this great week. But then like that Sunday comes and no one like pings me for anything, like on a Sunday, and I'm still like, it's over, it's all done. Nobody wants this crap anymore. I'm gonna have to come up with something new.
I gotta get a job.
There is that fear there, and so in that respect, meditation and contemplation and the kind of changes to mind, body, and spirit that happen through things like sexual alchemy refocus it. It's not that these things don't arise in the mind stream, but you don't have to be that thing anymore. You can recognize it and then go, okay, well, obviously that's silly, so, and then move on. Or you just, you rest in this mind state that is so cued into the ultimate, the flow of everything, that none of that, all that is so small, it doesn't even register.
Right. One of the things I like about the whole hermetic process that I go through is that it puts you in touch with your sort of more eternal aspect. On the Soma broadcast yesterday, I got a chance to talk about, or not yesterday, a couple days ago, about how each incarnation is sort of cumulative, and that's all stuff that I don't really know if it's true or not. It doesn't really matter to me so much, but just sort of plugging into that concept of the eternal is a really valuable way to put your current life situations into context a little bit, in my opinion. So, but do you buy into all the incarnation stuff? Because we've talked about this before, and I'm not exactly sure where you fall on the whole reincarnation spectrum.
I don't buy into anything 100%. Probably the greatest lesson that I ever took away from Robert Anton Wilson's work was to never rate anything as true or false. Always see it on a sliding scale. So I've seen some evidence of reincarnation, and I've seen some evidence that one life affects the next life. It's not what I would call compelling evidence. I'm not going to go, debate it with, a new atheist or something like that. But I've seen some evidence. I don't know if it's necessarily cumulative. Any more than anything else is. In other words, I don't know if it's necessarily in an upward direction. Because certainly you can fall as well. At least that's the idea of Buddhism. That you can kind of go up, go down. It's this cycle of life that you want to escape entirely. I like to think that even if things are going around and around, that it's spirals, not circles, so that we are all cumulatively heading towards somewhere. And I've had some mystical experiences that indicate that that's true, and that is in fact a fundamental building block of reality. But I don't get too worked up over it. I'm much more concerned with what goes on in this life. Unless there is some major reason to be concerned about the last lives. And as far as, what happens when we die and guiding our incarnation, I've had a lot of teachings, especially from the Tibetan tradition, about guiding your soul to a different afterlife, to special pure lands or heavens. Even, went on retreat to do the POA practice where your skull opens up a little bit. So you've completed the practice when you start bleeding out the top of your skull, because your soul is like hammering at the top of your skull to make the aperture. So you can bleed, or it will separate to the point where you put a little blade of kusha grass. So at the end of retreat, people are walking around with grass sticking out of their heads.
That does not sound very pleasant. or appealing.
It's good, actually. It's good. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It just happens spontaneously with some effort. But even then, I don't know if I'm going to do it because I didn't mind the 10,000 years before I was incarnated as Jason, and I have some things that I think I remember from previous lives, but I'm not entirely 100% sure.
So what about the whole true will thing? Like each lifetime. All right, yeah. So so each lifetime is progressing towards an overarching theme. Do you buy into that, or?
No, not really. For me, true will is not a thing. It's not a noun. It's a verb. One is
No.
acting out of one's true will when one is in harmony with one's nature of mind, one's true self.
It becomes as a thought and a word and a deed, right?
Yes, if one is acting from that place, then one is acting from one's true will. But the idea of I was sitting down and then I realized that my true will is to become the CEO of, a small company. That's not really true will is to me a moment to moment thing. It's not
Right.
these nouns that you can sort of tack onto it. So I think true will is available to anyone at any time, but that the incarnations don't necessarily uh, map out onto this glorious head towards true will, or that we are that there's a particular theme to your incarnations other than becoming more who you are.
Makes sense.
And who knows? Maybe upon final enlightenment, we all look around as fully enlightened thelemic Buddhi or whatever, and you and I are sitting up on lotus flowers in the clouds, and it's boring as all fuck, and we're like, okay, well, you want to play the game again? Sure. And then
Dive
we
in.
reincarnate as mice.
Yeah.
You have to sort of force the ignorance upon yourself to enjoy existence.
Well, I really do believe in that everything that we do is about having a good time. I mean, basically, in my opinion, my cosmology is that when we were the all thing and everything was one and unified before it was split off, we were really bored and we needed to separate for the opportunity to experience existence. I don't remember exactly how it's phrased in the Crowley thing, but I thought it summed it up pretty well. The whole separated for the sake of joy or whatever. I mean, I think that's pretty much it. We get bored, and so we incarnate and we have a good time. And I think that, in my opinion, the whole idea of the true will is basically what you said. It's what you want to do right now, and are you doing it, and what's stopping you, and how aware of what you really want
it's
are
not
you?
it's not what you want to do right now. It's not like, I feel like a snack. What do I have in the fridge? My true will says White Castle.
I disagree though. I frankly, I think it really is about that, and I think that all the work that we're going through and the initiations through the spheres peel away the snack into what the snack represents. And then once we understand what the snack represents, we understand what it is I think that those momentary desires are a starting place, for an inquisitive mind. And I think that we have those being magicians. Otherwise, we wouldn't be into this whole thing,
Well, see, I mean, I don't know. I think as magicians, we're not so different from anyone else.
Really?
As far as the whims and wants go. Yeah, I think people put a lot of elitism into being magicians that's not warranted. And then it all starts to smack of, people's...
Uh-oh. Ah, crap. Looks like we've lost Jason there. Let's see if I can track him down and see if he still has time. We were about to wrap things up, I believe, because it was getting to be late anyway. So let me see if I can track him down and see if he still has time to finish this up. All right, thanks a lot. I'll be back.